Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dee with Top Notch Designs, and today we are going to go over how to replace a zipper in a jacket. So this zipper on this jacket is broken, so we're going to go do a full step-by-step as to how to remove the old zipper and place a new zipper. Now, we don't have this blue that's in the jacket, but we have this red. So we're going to replace the blue zipper with the red one. So we will show you how to cut a zipper down because this one is too long, as well as install it and how to remove an old one. So let's go ahead and get started. So what you're going to need is a seam ripper, a blade, and some teeny little wire cutters, and I'll show you why here in just a sec. So to go ahead and get started, we are going to just go ahead and take this. So this has a flap in the back, and then it has the zipper and then the front. We like to go through the middle of the flap here between the zipper and the flap, and you want to just take a couple stitches, and then you're gonna turn your seam ripper around, and you're gonna have the little ball part is gonna go underneath where you had, and you're just gonna pull up gently. These seam rippers are very sharp, so you want to be careful. Now, not all fabric you can do this with, but I'm going to show you how to just remove this even faster. So as you can see, we have the top, the zipper, the flap, and then the back. Now, you want to grab between here with your fingers, between the zipper and the flap, and you're just going to give it a good yank. And you're going to give it another yank, and another yank, until you get to the top. And that separates the zipper a lot faster than removing it seam by seam, stitch by stitch. Then you're going to take your blade and you're going to gently go in the top here, and you're going to remove the bar tacking ones. Now, this is bar tacked in there, so you got to be very gentle and cautious not to cut your flap. It's okay if you cut the zipper because the zipper's coming out anyway, it's broken. And then you just pull that. You're going to do the same at the bottom here. And sometimes if there's an extra tacking of thread, you want to get those extra threads out first, because sometimes it's in there and you can't get it out. So again, once you get to the bottom, you take your blade and you just kind of go through the grain against the zipper, not towards the zipper, not your fabric, so that if you do accidentally cut, you're cutting the zipper and not your fabric. And you just go ahead and got one more little piece of thread there, and you take your zipper off. And that is how you remove a zipper rather quickly. Now, to get your extra threads out, okay, we're back. So now you're going to take your needle nose plug, your nippers here, and you're just going to remove your extra threads from the jacket. Doesn't have to, you want to make sure you get all these extra threads out so that when you put your new zipper in, you don't have all these extra threads. So we're going to remove all those. So we'll remove these and then we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So we finished taking out the excess threads from here, here, and here. Now we're going to take out the other side of the zipper. Again, you're going to go through the back of the zipper, and you're just going to do a couple of seams, unstitch. Now I'm not going to do the full rip on this one, only because I want to show you how to do it with the seam ripper. So you just take your seam ripper and you just go all the way up, but have your seam ripper where it's against the zipper and not your fabric, so that you don't rip your fabric. And this one is tacked an extra couple times right here, so you gotta kind of go through and get those extra threads. And you don't want to force, you do not want to force a seam ripper. This one is a little bit dull, so it's not going as fast as I normally would take to do this, because this one's dull and I need to get a new one. But new ones are even sharper, and you'll go right up the seam and rip right through and cut through the fabric, and you don't want that, because nothing's worse than having to try and patch up your fabric after you've ripped it with a seam ripper. It's not fun. And turn this side around. Go. Also, if your seam ripper is too dull, you can use your blade, like so. So you can take this and you just go completely in between and just go all the way up like so. And there you have it. Quick and easy. You want to do this with a sharp blade or a semi-sharp blade. A dull blade, this will not work for whatsoever, this method. And I'm just going to the bar tack part, and then we'll go up the top here. And be careful to keep your fingers out the way. And now we're going to take our seam ripper here, because see, this one's attached, and you're just going to get in between the fabric and the zipper and find a little area to open up. And again, you're going to do the same thing with the seam ripper. You're just going to gently seam rip this. Now I could tear this, but again, I want to show you this way and not the tear method, because the tear method only works when you know your fabrics and you got a feel for it and how thick the thread is, if the thread is bar tacked or stitched more than one time in a certain area. So you got to get a feel for it, and once you're used to that feel, you're able to tear. I don't recommend that on this, which is why I'm showing you this way on this side. And you just take your seam ripper, just make sure your ball part is hanging in the down position. You don't want it this way, because you can easily cut your fabric that way. Your ball should always be in the down position on your seam ripper. So we're just gonna go all the way up, and we had already removed the bar tack on that side, so, and you're gonna do the same thing the bottom of the zipper. You're gonna finish off the bottom, and then we will go, now that zipper is removed, now we will go back in and do the same thing to this side where you remove all your old threads. So we'll go ahead and remove those, and then we'll be back. Okay, we are back and we have removed all the stitches from the other side of the jacket. So now our next step is to take this flap and we are going to sew it back down to the back side of the jacket before we put our zipper in. So we're just going to turn our machine on and we're going to sew this back down before we attach the zipper. We're going to back stitch to keep it in place. So we're going to lock those stitches in. And now I'm going to show you how to, well, first let's see. This zipper is definitely too long for this jacket, so we're going to cut the zipper down. And to do that, what we do is we're going to see how long this is. And as you can see, it's pretty long, but before we cut it down, I'm going to show you, we're going to attach one side first. So you're going to unzip the zipper, and you want to take it with the zipper side, see the zipper with the zipper pull side, and you're going to butt it up against your stitch line here. And then we are going to stitch that zipper onto that back flap for now. And now we're not going to go all the way up because remember there's not a little flap that goes over it. So right here we're going to stop about an inch before the top of this flap. So we're going to stop about an inch before that. And you're going to back stitch, and then you're going to stop. And what I mean by that is, you see this is going to fold over like so. So you don't want to sew the zipper all the way up to the top because you need it in the seam. So now we know where this zipper needs to end. We're going to grab some top stops and our mini wire cutters, and we're going to cut this zipper down. So to do that, I'll mark it just for demonstration purposes. Normally I don't mark this, but as you can see, your line right here is where your flap goes over. We need our zipper to stop right before that. So this is the line. So we need to cut our tooth. We need to cut our zipper to one tooth below that line. And to do that, you're going to take a couple of teeth from the top first because you want to, and you're just going to pull them off. You're going to squeeze and pull them off. Squeeze and pull them off, and they come off fairly easy. as long as you give it a nice squeeze. Don't squeeze too tight to where they go flying, but tight enough that they come off. And then I'm going to do one more tooth because we want one below that line. So we're going to squeeze and pull. All right. Now, you see we got a bunch of teeth missing and we still got extended. So right above that last tooth that is on the longer side, you're going to cut. So now your zipper should look like this. So now I should be able to fold this in and go like that. And now that is encased in that seam. But before we do that, we need to put a top stop on. And the reason why we need to put a top stop on is because the zipper pull or the zipper slider will come off of the zipper. And we do not want that. So you'll take your top stop and you're just going to put it, you're going to butt it up against that last tooth that you put on there, and you're going to give it a good squeeze. And now we are going to tuck again, fold like we did, fold again and tuck it in. Now we're going to take our zipper flap and we're going to match up our old stitch line with our new stitch line. So we're going to go like that and we're going to pin it. You want to pin it to ensure that it does not move. And this is a color blocked jacket, so we have to stitch red, green, and then blue. I already have blue on my machine, so I'm just gonna do the blue first. Normally I start top to bottom, but first we're gonna go ahead and pin this first. So let's pin this all the way down and then we'll be back. Okay, so we are back and we got it all pinned, as you can see. And I am going to, like I said, I'm going to start here on the blue and then I'm going to stitch all the way down, and then I'll come back and do the red and the green. And that is because I already have blue on my machine, so that's why we're doing it this way. Normally we would do it the other way, but because I already have blue on the machine, it just seems like a lot of work to take the blue off. Actually, before I do that, let me see what the other side looks like. Actually, we're gonna go ahead and change it to the red first. And the reason being is because the other side starts with blue and this side ends with blue. So I'm going to do the red and the green and then the blue. That way we don't have to change it over. So let me do that and we'll be back. Okay, so we got our red on our machine. So let's go ahead and stitch our red first. And then we're going to back stitch at the end of the red before we start the green. So our red is done. Now we're going to change out to our green. So let's change it now to green and then we'll be back again. Okay, so now we have our green on our machine. So we're going to go ahead and stitch and back stitch, and we're going to stitch our green. And then you're going to back stitch at the end of your green. Trim your threads. And then we're going to go and do our blue, our final color for this side. And I'm just going to fix this one spot because it doesn't look like my stitching was lined up very well right there. I'll fix that, and then I'll go back and pick out the old stitch in here at the end. That way it's nice and lined up, because nobody wants uneven stitches. So now we're going to go back in and we're going to change to the blue thread now. Okay, we got our blue thread on the machine, so now we're going to stitch our blue thread. But before we do, I'm going to pull our slider up so it's out of the way, and we're going to do a couple stitches, and then we're going to backstitch to lock it in place because we switched threads, so we want to make sure that does not come apart. You just go ahead and stitch all the way down. And then you're going to backstitch a couple of times when you get to the end to ensure that the zipper does not come out of the seam on the bottom of the jacket. And they usually do. So you want to backstitch there. You remove all your pins. I usually recommend that you remove your pins beforehand. I don't typically run over my pins because I've been doing this for so long. But if you are not like me and you run them over, you might want to remove them so you don't break it. So there is your first side of your zipper, and this is the downfall of color blocked jackets. You have to change your thread with each one. Now you don't have to. You can just do one color all the way down, but to me it looks more professional if you color block it. The zipper itself, when it was installed, was color blocked, so you kind of want to have the zipper the same. You want it to look like it did when it first when you first did it. You want to make sure that it's color blocked the same, just because it looks nicer, looks more professional, and it doesn't look tacky. So there's that. Now we're going to grab our other side of our zipper, and we're going to zip it up so that we know where to cut the top of this zipper. So we're going to flip our little flap over and see where our tooth is. Now, if you're new to this, just mark it. You can just mark so you know where to cut. If you're used to doing this and you don't need to mark it, then don't mark it. I'm used to it. I marked it for demonstration purposes. So we're just going to take, again, remove about a couple of inches worth of teeth off of the zipper above the mark that you marked, not below it. If you go below it, you're going to mess up your zipper and you have to buy a whole new zipper just to do the other side. But with this one, you want to go above it. So I got to go one more because my mark is right here, and I got to do one more tooth below that mark. Again, we're going to cut above everything we cut off, so like that. And usually you want to take a lighter to these edges so that they don't fray. Just gently, and just be careful when you're touching it so you don't burn your hand. However, it's going to be tucked in the jacket anyway, so it doesn't matter. So now we're going to install our other top stop on this one, just like we did the other side. Just right up against that tooth, and we're going to give it a good squeeze. Now when you zip this, they line up. I don't know if you can see that. So now, the easiest way, as you can see, this has a line here, and it has a line here. The easiest way I like to do these when adding a zipper on, a new zipper, and you're doing the second side, the easiest way to do this is to take your bottoms and line them up like so. And then you're going to take your flap on the other side, move it out the way, and you're going to line this up like so. And then you're going to take your side here and flip it, and you want the edge of the zipper to line up with the edge of this. And you're going to put it right there just like that. Now that looks perfect. So now we're going to pin it. Now, you're going to not worry about any of this yet. You're going to do the same thing to the top. You're going to go to the top. You're going to match your tops up like so that you know they're lined up. And then you're going to flip your flap open on the other side, and you're going to just push over until it lines up. You see that? And then you're going to pin the top here. But you're not going to pin the whole thing. You're going to unzip. You want to unzip so you can pin, because you can't pin with the zipper in place. And you're just going to pin. Now, if you notice, I pinned below that marking line. The reason I did that is because we got to fold and fold again, like that. You see that? And then you're going to put a pin there as well, because we want to stitch that into the seam. So we're going to do that. And be careful, don't poke yourself. Now you're going to unzip your jacket. And you're going to feed the rest of this into the seam. So start with the bottom, not the top. The reason being is because this area right here stretches a little and you'll have to kind of force it in. So you're just going to lay it nice and flat, and you're just going to pin it up against the edge. I'm going to grab some pins. We're going to pin up against the edge. This is the easiest way to put a zipper in for me. Now, you can mark your zipper and do it a different, the marking method. I have been doing this so long that I do not need the marking method. But whatever you feel comfortable, you can mark your zipper. And I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a moment. This is the easiest way to do this part. When we get to the closing of the jacket, I will show you. And actually, that actually fit perfect, and it did not stretch. So you don't have to worry about that. Sometimes it does stretch and you got to force feed it in, because it's a different type of, it's a softer material and it's a more stretchy material. So now we're going to lay our jacket. Make sure everything is out the way other than this side of the jacket. You want to lay it under your needle. And I'm going to take these two pins out immediately because I don't want to try and go over those. And you're just going to stitch. And then you back stitch. And I'm removing these pins as I go just because I normally do not run over pins, so I do not have to worry about running over my pins. But for demonstration purposes, we will remove the pins. Now, when you get to the end of this zipper, I actually do not like the bar tack, but we will. And the only reason why I don't is because if you have to remove the zipper, it makes it very difficult to remove the zipper on a jacket that has bar tacked on the zipper itself. So, and my thread came out my machine, so I'm just going to re-thread it real quick. and you probably should rethread your machine with the machine off, not on. Now, this has a little string in here for a cord lock. We need to tack this down. So I'm going to flip the jacket over. I'm going to take my cord lock and I'm just going to do one little stitch over it and the zipper. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to lock it in place so that it doesn't, so that your cord lock actually works on your jacket. Okay? Now, the next step, let me turn off the machine so you can hear me. The next step is to zip your coat back up. And this is actually the fun part. This is the part I was talking about. Now we got to close up the jacket. So we're going to take our front flap and we're going to stick that zipper that's in there like that. And you see how even that top is? Now, most people, what they do, I do not, is they take a chalk and you see this line right here. They draw a line across so that they make sure that they line up this line here with this line here. I do not do that because it takes too long. And it almost always, you would need a brand new piece of chalk to make sure the line is thin enough. So what I do is I take my finger, I go like this, and I just go all the way across like this, and I eyeball it. And you see how that lines up? And then I pin it. That's not going to go anywhere. And then I make sure the top is still lined up, and it is. And then I put a pin in it. Now, when you get down here, it's the same thing. That needs to line up with that. But before we do that, we're going to turn it around and we're going to do the same on the bottom. We want to make sure that the bottom, so you fold it over and you want to make sure that this bottom is going to line up with this bottom. And it does. And we're going to just pin. Now, one of the easiest ways to make this one here line up with this one here, we're just going to unzip the jacket because we know the top lines up and we know this lines up and this lines up. So now we're just going to lay our jacket neatly and we're going to pin it in place. Now, this should not be stretched whatsoever, meaning that when you pin this into place, it should lay perfectly straight. You see that? It shouldn't be no kind of bowing in it, no extra fabric. It should be perfect. So when you get to that marking, that line where the blue and the green connect and make that seam, it should line up perfect. If it doesn't, you'll have to adjust it. But for now, we're just going to show you this way first. And usually 99.99% of the time, it lines up perfect. So we're just going to pin this in place. And then we're going to zip it back up and see if it lines up before we stitch it into place. You don't want to stitch this in place and then realize, oh, I made a mistake and now I got to take out all this thread and re-line it up and stitch it. So you want to do it while the coat is just pinned and not sewn shut. So we're just pinning. And yes, you can never have too many pins. Well, you probably could, but in this case, we want to make sure that we don't have any kind of bowing of the fabric or the material. All right, now we are going to zip the jacket up before we sew, to make sure that it lines up. And we already know it lines up on the top. And there you have it, perfectly lined up. Now you could put a pin right here to ensure that it won't move, but it's not going to. Perfectly lined up here, perfectly lined up at the top. So now we can unzip. Be careful of your pins. And we can stitch. And like I said, we're going to stitch from the bottom up now. So we already have blue on our machine, so we're going to stitch the blue. And then we'll change our threads as we go. Put that on. We're going to stitch, couple, and back stitch, because again, we don't want the zipper to come out of the seam. So we're going to back stitch. And we're going to back stitch at the blue, at the edge of the blue. And then we're going to cut it. We're going to make sure the back looks good. Back looks great. All right, and now we are going to change our thread to the green again. So let me change that and we'll be back. Okay, we are back. We changed our thread to green, so now we are going to do the green. So again, couple stitches, then back stitch to lock that stitch into place. And back stitch again at the end of your green. And now we are going to change our green out and back to red. We'll be back in a second. Okay, we are back now. We just finished changing our thread to the red, so now we're going to stitch, back stitch again. And we're going to just finish off and back stitch. And that is it. So we're just going to trim our extra threads. And we are now done with our zipper. So we'll zip it all up. And there you have a perfectly placed zipper. And that is how you replace a zipper in a winter jacket or any jacket. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a top-notch evening. Goodbye for now.